After that, we are up to multiplication and division of radical. So the key here is when you're multiplying a radical, you have to make sure non-radical and radical, they have to be separated. So if you want to multiply, you multiply the non-radical, which is this part, 2x. And the non-radical for the second one is negative 7. How about the radical? It will be radical y and radical of xy. So for the color in blue, right, you all multiply it. 2x times radical 7 is negative 14x. And for the radical, when you multiply radical to a radical, you have to make sure you have a radical and put everything inside. You have y times xy. Okay. And now it becomes negative 14x. We want to simplify a little bit further, and we have x, y squared. And y squared can be taken out because it's a square. Square root of this will be y outside, and y have inside is only radical x. Try example 3. We have 15c cubed. ACD is under the radical, and then 1/3. Sorry, let me fix this. 1/3 c, and then radical CD squared. And remember, it's multiplying radical, you have to separate non-radical, and radical. So the non-radical will be 15c squared, no, c cubed, multiply 1/3 c. And then now let's work on the radical. Radical, we have a, c, d. And then we also multiply by cd squared. What's next will be simplified though. We have 15 and 1/3 is 5, and then c to the third times c is c to the 4, because we just add the exponent 3 plus 1. And for the radical, we have a, c and c will be c squared, because c 1 plus 1, c to the 1 plus 2, c to the 3. Now you may wonder, how can we simplify this? We call back from the previously how we simplify radical. We have 8, then we can make it into 2 factor, 4 times 2, and c to the 2 can be taken out later on, but d to the third, d to 3 you have to break down to d to the second, to 2, and d to the 1. And now you notice that this one, and this one can be simplified and take out to the radical. So let's continue with 5c to the 4. Radical 4, take out is 2. And then c squared, take out the radical is c. D squared, take out radical is d. And what's left inside is we have 2d. And when you take this out, you want to complete this, right? Then you can, on the outside, 5 times 2 is 10, c to the 4, and c is c to the 5, and then d, radical 2d. That should be the final solution. Okay, we have a multiplication and we have a subtraction inside of the parenthesis. And to get away of the parenthesis, we have to distribute this, which just means we multiply this. And to make this work, multiplying, we have to multiply non-radical versus non-radical, which is 3 times 2 is 6. And what happened is radical 5 times 5. And if you noticed earlier, radical multiplied by radical itself is equal to removing the radical. And now we distribute 3 radical 5 to 4 radical 4. Then you have 12, and then radical will be 5 times 4. So this will be same as removing the radical is 6 times 5, or 5 times 5 is 25. Radical 25 will be equal to 5. That will be from here. I'm going to erase this. And on the second term, before we simplify this, with 4, right? 4 radical 4 can be taken out. So we have 2 here. Only radical 5 left inside the radical. And right now we have 30 minus 24 radical 5. And since these two, they are not like term, we cannot combine this anymore. It's similar to, like, for example, 30 minus 24x. And that's it. They're different like term. Okay, for dividing radicals, for the note is we don't want any radical in our denominator. So for example, if I have 5 over radical 7, we don't like the denominator, which is half radical 7. So to remove this radical, one of the way we can do is multiplying whatever the radical is in our denominator, top and bottom. So this will become radical 7 times radical 7. It means removing the radical, or you can say radical squared 7 squared. On the top will be 5 times radical 7. Now as you can see, there's no more radical in our denominator. And this is important because another word for this is called rationalize. Okay, we try a couple more example. Second one, 4 over 3 radical 2. And you see that the radical 2 is in the bottom, then you have to multiply radical 2. Of course, if you want, you can do whatever the whole denominator is, like 3 radical 2, but this will be making a little bit more work because you just want to cancel out the radical. And multiply it top and bottom. This will give you 4 radical 2, and radical 2 multiplied here will become 2. So it will be 3 times 2. 4 radical 2 over 6. And we want to simplify this further. This we get divided by 2 is 2, divided by 2 is 3. So final answer is 2 radical 2 over 3. Okay, same thing apply to variable. If we have radical 3 over radical 2x, negative 3, oops, give me 1 second, sorry. In this case, we have radical in our denominator, so we have to multiply the radical, top and bottom, to make it balance. And now we have negative 3 radical 2x, denominator is just 2x. And you try to simplify this, but 2 and 3 cannot be simplified. So that should be the final answer. Okay, I want to do something a little bit different. For example, 5. 2 radical 3 plus radical 7. 3 radical 3 minus radical 7. For question like this, you may wonder how can we get away the radical in our denominator? By multiplying radical 3 or multiplying radical 7? Seems like either way it's not gonna work. You can try. If we multiply by radical 3 here, this, when you distribute this, the 3 will be cancelled, but when you multiply to the radical 7, it will be radical 21, so it's not gonna work. Same thing if you change to radical 7. You're multiplying the radical 7 cancel, but radical 3 and radical 7 not gonna work again. So we have to introduce a term is called conjugate. Instead, you have to multiply by the conjugate of it, of the denominator. The conjugate of denominator come from wherever the denominator is, you find the opposite sign. So you see the difference? One is minus, and right now we have plus. And make sure you have to multiply top and bottom to make it balance. Just think about this. Wherever the color in the green, this divided by this, 3 radical, like this whole thing, okay, divided by this whole thing will be equal to 1, right? Anything divided by anything is equal to 1. Divided by itself, I'm sorry. Now, after we find the conjugate, we have to simplify this. First of all, I like to do the bottom. That's the easiest. Remember, this is a minus b multiply a plus b, and this comes from a squared minus b squared is the difference of perfect square root. So, or else you want to FOIL it one by one, that's fine. If you see it is from the formula, then you can just a squared minus b squared. Right, on the top, then there's no way, because it's a plus b, there's no way we have to use this formula again. So on the top, you have to do it one by one. So 3 radical 3 times 3, 2 radical 3 times 3 radical 3 is 6, 3, because radical 3 times radical 3. And then after is plus 2, and then radical 3 times 7 is 21. And right now we're up to this times this. Plus, oops, let me change back the color. Plus 3 radical 21. And then plus radical 7 times radical 7 is equal to 7. Now the next step would be, we need to simplify this a little bit further. On the top is 18 plus 7. And then since the middle term right here, there are two like terms, so we can combine them. Plus 5 radical 21. In the bottom is 9 and then times 3, because 2 had to distribute it here, minus radical 7 squared is 7. Let's simplify further. It's 25 plus 5 radical 21, and then 27 minus 7. This should be equal to 25 plus 5 radical 21 over 20. And you may think if we can simplify this or not. What happens if we take out 5 here, take out 5 here, take out 5 here, then take out 5, I have 5 left, plus take out 5, I have 1 times radical 21, and on the bottom divide by 5 is 4. So this should be the final answer. I know it's a little bit more work, but if we go through this step by step, should be able to do it. I repeat this again. You have to find the conjugate and multiply by the conjugate. When you multiply, you know there's like a FOILing method. You have to do it, distribute one by one. Distribute here, here, and then here, here. Let me use different color. Here and here. And then that's how we solve, or how we simplify this.